Hello guys, in my previous video, I constantly talked about Enzo Maresca's 3-1-3-3 structure, and I explained elaboratively of how he is actually transforming the game when it comes to the attack. And Maresca's key asset in that system was Moises Caicedo, who is also a key aspect in this video, talking about defensively and the role of the defensive midfielder. And in this video, we are also going to do something more of a preview of how Chelsea can defend against their strong PSG side, because Chelsea will be facing Paris Saint-Germain, the treble winners, a very brutal and a very lethal team when it comes to the way they're able to move with the ball and actually create all manner of confusions when they are actually having the ball. So, Chelsea's defensive structure starts with an aggressive high press that we saw in this game. The aggressive high press was more of a 4-2-3-1, and Gusto in particular and Caicedo were looking to play in the midfield. That is Enzo and Caicedo, with Gusto looking to try and hold on to the wingback. And if the wingback started deeper, it was up to Caicedo to shift across to cover for the space of Gusto, who actually made a run. Now, before we start this video again, I'd like to kindly ask you like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Let's proceed. Now, because we know that Chelsea's system, when it came to the way they were looking to defend without the ball, was more of a 4-2-3-1 structure, different from the 4-4-2. And why is this so? This is because the opposition were looking to play with a back three. So Maresca wanted to have his winger starting narrow and his forward looking to press, and then using his midfielders to cover the two midfielders and using his central defensive midfielder to cover for the fullback, who will be stepping out to cover the opposition wingback, as I showed you that Caicedo was actually doing when it comes to terms with Gusto stepping forward to cover Fluminense's wingbacks. And because of this structure, Chelsea were limiting central progression and forcing Fluminense to go long, where they trusted the aerial ability of Tosin to win them the game. As you can see here, Chelsea are looking to try and cover the central of the pitch, and Caicedo, who's the central midfielder, has been dragged out to actually go and try and neutralize that threat out wide. And this was the main aim of Fluminense. But one advantage that Chelsea had over them is because they required Thiago Silva to be the one to play this ball, limiting their numbers in the team. But Chelsea were actually having Sanchez doing this. The thing is, Thiago Silva is a good player, but if he's not adding numbers into the team, then it means that Chelsea will always have an extra player to cover their two players. As I told you, the fullbacks were tasked to cover the wingbacks. And because Thiago Silva was the player who was supposed to actually spread out play, he was the player who was supposed to actually move play and dictate the play the way Fluminense wanted to actually build through the wide areas, the thing they forgot is that they were light in the midfield areas. And because Fluminense were light in the midfield, looking at the man-marking system that happened, which is the two, Neto and Nkunku covering the wide centre-backs, Palma and Fernandes covering the two midfielders, and João Pedro on Thiago Silva, it always meant that Fluminense did not have that an extra player when it comes to attack. And this made it so easy. And their only option was trying to shift the ball out wide and trying to use of the width of their fullbacks to actually try and create overloads against Chelsea. And I've always said this when I talked about the 3-4-3 attacking structure, that the 4-4-2 is the best structure to neutralize the 3-4-3, because now you have the two attackers onto the two holding midfielders, and you have two players in the wide areas to cover for the wing back. That is it. So what we started to see is that even if they played the ball to the wing back to draw Chelsea's fullbacks who were so aggressive, and they look to play the ball over the top, you notice that in such scenarios, it was either Tosin Adrabio who would shift out to cover for the fullback, that is in Cucurella in that side, or Moises Caicedo actually dropping in that defense and covering for Malo Gusto on the other side. And because of this really was something that Chelsea had actually done quite well. But sometimes Chelsea were being caught off guard. Like here, Nkunku is ball watching, yet Caicedo has this man covered, and the ball is played over the top, and now Nkunku is running back, and now this makes Chelsea to actually have Gusto being dragged out wide. And once Gusto is dragged out wide, look at Caicedo. He's looking to move to try and cover the half space region instead of Nkunku actually going to with the player who was making the run. And because you notice this 4-4-2 structure that Chelsea had, you notice that because the fullbacks were being told to be so aggressive on the wingbacks, there was always space between the fullback and the centre back. And this was the space that Fluminense actually had an opportunity to score an equalizer from, because they were looking to exploit that space. Caicedo, as good as he was, sometimes was not there to cover that space on time. And this meant that Fluminense always had a player who was looking to attack Chelsea's most dangerous zone on the pitch. And this is something that I really think that Maresca has to talk with Nkunku. And that is how Chelsea actually found themselves in a position where they were actually about to score goal. Even the positioning of Sanchez was not quite well. And Marc Cucurella had to step in and make a crucial goal line clearance. You see, some of these defensive lapses Chelsea cannot escape when they face a strong, dominant team like a Paris Saint-Germain. And because of this, Chelsea need to actually do everything that they can to ensure that the half space areas and the third man runs that Fluminense had against them are not repeated in the final, because PSG are so good in making those third man runs. And if Chelsea will not be able to actually cover those third man runs, then they might find themselves in very deep trouble. The main aim is to ensure that the third man runs are well covered, ensuring that the opposition does not have the space to run at your half space zone, because if the opposition has the space to run at your half space zone, then what automatically you notice is that now you are playing at a disadvantage, and you will not get away with this when facing big teams. So overall, I can say Maresca's 4-2-3-1 structure in defense was quite impressive. However, you need pass players not like Nkunku who are playing in those wide regions, because Nkunku is not quite good defensively. That is something that I have been singing on this channel. And because of his defensive lapses, you need a winger like Neto. If Neto is playing down that side, then that situation does not happen, because Neto knows how to cover for his fullback, but Nkunku doesn't do that. So Maresca will have to evaluate the way he's going to use his wingers in this attacking system. I'm really thankful that you have been able to break down this Palmeiras game into 3 episodes and manage to give you an in-depth analysis on what Chelsea will expect when facing Paris Saint-Germain. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video, and hopefully you've enjoyed our analysis.